Welcome to the ADHD Mind, where I share with you interesting facts, tips, and inspirations on ADHD. ADHD is a commonly misunderstood condition, and there are signs that are not as obvious as the typical ADHD behaviors. In this video, we're going to talk about things that people might not know about ADHD. Number 1. Your struggle with ADHD didn't show up until later in life. Many people didn't know they have ADHD until their life circumstances changed all of a sudden. Then their struggles with ADHD started to become more obvious. However, they had no idea it is due to ADHD. They just thought that there's something wrong with their brains, and they felt so different than everyone else around them. They never suspect that they may have ADHD because they were never diagnosed with it as a child. With the structure of their early life at home and school, their symptoms went under the radar, and neither their parents or teachers or they themselves noticed anything that would point to ADHD. Once that structure is gone, they are out in the world of adulthood and have to manage every aspect of their life on their own. Their struggles with ADHD start to surface. People with ADHD may not notice their symptoms until they struggle with college or their careers or relationships. Some people used to do so well in school, now all of a sudden they feel overwhelmed with the stressful course load of college. Some can't seem to stay long enough at their jobs due to boredom and were constantly job hopping. Others struggle with their relationships but never understood why. These situations would leave many individuals with ADHD confused and not sure what is wrong with them, and some start to blame themselves for it and view themselves as being broken and defective. It results in a lot of shame and guilt in them as they go through their life challenges, not knowing this were caused by their ADHD. Number 2, you don't exhibit any hyperactivity symptoms. It is a fairly common misconception that all people with ADHD are hyperactive. When you hear someone mention ADHD, the first thought that comes to mind is an image of a hyperactive boy running around and can't sit still and pay attention in class. However, that's not always the case. There are 3 subtypes of ADHD, predominantly inattentive type, predominantly hyperactive type, and combined type. You can fall into any of these 3 categories, and if you are the inattentive type, then you won't display any hyperactive behaviors. Many individuals who fall under the inattentive type are oftentimes overlooked for ADHD or misdiagnosed with other conditions that were masking the ADHD symptoms. Besides, hyperactivity may not always exhibit externally. Instead, it may come in the form of a hyperactive brain, always busy with racing thoughts, which is less visible to people around you. ADHD exists on a spectrum and presents with multiple symptom variations. Therefore, your ADHD symptoms might be quite different than other people's ADHD symptoms. Severity differs across individuals. Not everyone with ADHD will exhibit all the classic symptoms of ADHD. Number 3, having ADHD doesn't mean that you can't focus at all. The term attention deficit in ADHD is quite misleading. Having ADHD doesn't mean that you cannot focus at all. It's more of an inconsistency of attention and focus. Most of the time, you can't seem to control where your attention and focus should go. Your level of focus largely depends on your interest in the task or activity at hand. People with ADHD can even hyperfocus for hours on end if it is an activity that truly interests them. They get so absorbed in the activity that sometimes it blocks out the world around them. This can be a positive thing for people with ADHD when they can use it to their advantage at school or work. However, it also has its downsides where it can interfere with their daily life and relationships. Number 4, you have ADHD and did extremely well in school. In contrast with popular belief that if you have ADHD, you would definitely struggle in school. However, that is not always the case. There are many people with ADHD who did very well in school, and no one would ever suspect that they might actually have ADHD because they have developed great coping mechanisms for their ADHD and still thrive in school. that might cause them difficulty in getting ADHD diagnosis by their doctor if they never really struggled in school. There's no correlation between having ADHD and your level of intelligence. In fact, many people with ADHD are really smart, which has helped compensate for their ADHD struggles in school. However, it still takes them a lot of time and effort to maintain that high performance. Number 5. You are super organized and meticulous. One of the most classic symptoms of ADHD is being messy and disorganized, often making careless mistakes. However, it might come as a surprise to many people that some of us with ADHD are extremely organized and detail-oriented. It is how some of us cope with our ADHD symptoms. We are terrified of forgetting something or making mistakes that we always double, triple check our work. We get so overwhelmed and anxious by a mess for not being able to find things we need that we obsess with keeping our space tidy and organized to keep our stress level lower. We are over-prepared before an important event, for example, exams, interviews, or presentations, just in case our ADHD symptoms might interfere with our performance. Number 6. You were diagnosed with a mood disorder and/or anxiety disorder. There are cases where people with ADHD were misdiagnosed with anxiety or depression before they are properly assessed for ADHD. After they got treatment for ADHD, their anxiety or depression symptoms finally went away on its own. In these cases, their daily struggles with ADHD most likely caused secondary issues such as anxiety and depression, and they were unaware of that, therefore never got assessed for ADHD. Their ADHD went undiagnosed for years while they continued to be under the treatment for anxiety or depression with no success or improvement in symptoms. That's when they start to dig deeper into their diagnosis and seek further help. Thanks so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel for more interesting facts, tips, and inspirations on ADHD.